Okay, you guys ready? It's Wednesday, January 3rd, 2023. It's 4 o'clock, and we're going to start the Town of Sangerville Select Board meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2, approval of the minutes, Select Board meeting 12/20/2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor? Review of treasurer's warrants, payroll 21 and 1. And accounts payable, I'm sorry, 121 and 1, and accounts payable 122. Switching years there.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve A and B.
All in
Second.
favor? We're all three in favor. Open session, we have a guest. Diane McCarthy-Clark is here.
I guess if we like, I should have my party dress on.
We could wait.
No, because there is no party dress waiting in the closet.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak?
I would.
Okay, please do.
Okay, and normally I'm pretty extemporaneous with my comments, but I do want to make sure I hit certain points, so I have notes that I'm going to refer to while I talk about this. The last special town meeting that we had and the information meeting before that, I left both of them discouraged and frustrated, and it's because of the lack of civility. It's becoming kind of like the established way of meetings to be held in public forums in the town, and I'm very concerned about it. I'm concerned that civility has been lost, and I'm concerned that if it keeps going the way it's going, the future of Sangerville is also lost. We can't get anywhere if there's no mutual respect among citizens and board and citizens. And I'm also getting kind of frustrated and embarrassed because people that I know in other towns are starting to look at our website, our town website, to get laughs about the dysfunction that's going on in our town. I mean, they call me up, they text me, they send me the copy of the minutes of like the special town meeting, and it's just like, really? So I want to start by saying I'm not going to assume that I know everything that goes on as a select board member. I know as a teacher, everyone thought that they knew what I did in front of the classroom. Parents assumed they knew exactly what it was to be a teacher. When I was a teacher, I thought I knew what it was to be a principal or an administrator until I got in the job myself and my eyes were opened in terms of the amount of undercurrent that no one sees, and yet it just drags after every administrator like an anchor. We don't know what a cashier does unless you're a cashier. I mean, it can go to anything. So I'm not going to say that I know what your job is because I don't. But I do know that a select board member for a town is a citizen. And when they start that job, they start the job because they want the town to be a good town. And I'm sure everybody starts with that intention. But you're also starting with absolutely no training. You don't know necessarily the rules and regulations that govern how a board operates. You don't understand necessarily how warrants are written. You don't understand the vast spectrum of things that you're going to have to consider. And I also think that it's kind of like, you have to build a plane while it's flying. You have to learn on the job. It's not an easy job.
That's a good idea.
It's a job that has a target on your back all the time. it's a job I would never want. As much as I really, really would love to have some kind of positive impact on the town, it's not a job that I would want because I know it's a thankless job most of the time. You get the grief. Here's what I do know, however. I was a public servant for 43 years as an educator. I also have years and years of experience as a negotiator on a bargaining team. And I know that as a public servant, the expectations for behavior are different than if you are just a citizen walking around. And that includes not just what happens within like a classroom, a board meeting, it's also what happens outside. Teachers have always been told if you have a Facebook page or a Twitter account or an Instagram account, your standards have to be way above board because people are going to hold you to standards that you didn't necessarily sign up for, but you're going to be held to. I was trying to think, in what ways could the culture of our town, which right now I think deserves the moniker Anchor Town, how could it change? I have a feeling it can change, but it needs to start from someplace. And I'm encouraging the board and the town manager to consider yourselves the seeds for that change. You can have an impact on the culture by becoming the standards for public forums, for public conduct, by being positive. It is different. And I think you could lead the way for the town to have a much more positive culture and therefore a better future. You serve as role models. I've been doing a little bit of work on research, and I came upon the American Society for Public Administration. And in their code, it's a pretty interesting site, but in their code, it says that public administrators need to adhere to the highest standards of conduct to inspire public confidence and trust in public service. So what does that mean? Well, at the meetings I mentioned, the information meeting and the special town meeting, I saw a lot of uncivil things going on. Berating language, public shaming and criticism, yelling, belittling and dismissive language, lack of listening skills, poor body language, voice tone, gestures, and I'm not talking all about board, I'm talking about public too. It was a two-way street of insults. What I'm hoping is that perhaps you as role models for the town could start really focusing on how messages are delivered by tone, by words, by actions. Deal with the facts, not the individuals. And believe me, I know how hard that can be. I know how hard it is to work to the bone to do something and then have someone tell you it was just garbage. And your pride sticks in your throat. But as a public servant, I had to swallow hard and then figure out a way of moving forward in a positive way to help that person see my perspective. You need to, as a public servant, consistently avoid attacks of a personal nature. Because all that's going to do is it's like backing an animal into a corner. The animal's going to come out biting. Use I statements. I feel this way about an action because. Hold your breath when someone attacks you. I felt awful for you when someone said they don't trust you. That's a slap in the face. Swallow hard, regroup, and go to a plan B. Be positive with your communications, and I think, Patrick, you have had a great start at that by doing the mailings. People like that. I would consider that a great path to continue. Be aware of your tone, be aware of your gestures, be aware of your body posture. And be the role models that our town needs to pull all of us in a positive direction. When the volume goes high, you bring your volume down. Do eye contact and avoid letting it become personal, even if they want it to be personal. And that's hard to do. I know, I've been there for 43 years. It's hard, but it's possible. And I'm looking to you as the leaders of our town and encouraging you to consider a path of purposeful, focused civility so that people feel like they're being heard and so that people feel as though you respect them. And if you give respect, you get respect. That too is something I learned with 43 years with middle school kids who can be terrors. But as soon as I established a respectful manner with them, I got all kinds of respect. And I don't think, except for one, that there's a student that I've had that would say that I did not respect who they were. Even if they hated what I was teaching, I still respected them. So, I guess that's what I have to say.
Well, the first thing I would say is thank you for coming in and thank you for putting that together. Obviously that took, your time to share with us what you had to say. And I appreciate that because that's what we've talked about forever is please come talk to us. Don't get on social media and so that's the first positive step that this is what, because unless we know what you're feeling or someone else is feeling, we can't either not defend ourselves, but state where we're coming from and or correct what we've any direction. So I thank you for coming in and directing your comments to us because that's what we've said all along. So,
and you've all been very willing to listen to what I've had to say. We've had disagreements. We sometimes come to a point where there is no meeting of an agreement, but we both sides been heard. But I just want it not to be a we, them, us, them kind of situation in our town. It should be a collective us working together. The citizens group that we had, we came from diverse backgrounds, experience, levels of being here in the town, and yet it worked because there was a focus on being civil and on listening to one another. I thought it went well, for the most part. It kind of fell apart near the end, but I think it worked well because it was the sentiment of the group to reach civil consensus. And I think, and I had, you know, a lot of hope based on that for what's going to happen in our future. Whether it's a town office, a town hall, getting the town on its feet with more strength, getting businesses in here, coming up with some, for lack of a better word, theme for the town that everyone can rally behind and feel community spirit. But whether you like it or not, I think it has to start in your laps as being people who are positive thinkers, positive communicators, and you just you cannot do a knee-jerk reaction, even though that deep down is exactly what will satisfy you at the moment. At the end of the informational meeting minutes, the paragraph that was at the end of that made my heart sink, because it had negative trigger words in it. I mean, chaos, sabotage, cynical, undermining, inconsistent behavior, and one sentence that was so dismissive to people who, for the most part, they did work honestly and sincerely on the project. It's just at the end they differed in their direction than the board. And I'm putting this as politely as I can. They did differ, but they did work at the beginning.
I too appreciate you coming in, but that's a bridge too far.
Well, I don't think it is, because it's something that it's in writing for everyone to see, and what it ends up doing is it throws negative language out, and without naming names, it names people very specifically, and I get it. But this is such a negative message at a time when it really is important to be positive. You've got to be positive. As a public servant, it's a role that requires that you back off what you'd love to do and figure out a way of getting the message to those people that are irritating to either change their mind.
I totally disagree with you.
Well,
You're not gonna, and I'm not gonna name names or anything, and I've been a part of this town forever, just like a lot of other people. There are too many people in our town that are too passionate about, and I'm not, different things in general. And we've run into this on other topics, it's not always the topic we're on today. They are so compassionate about a topic that it's not about facts, it's not about truths, it's not about best interest and the best for our town, it's about their passion. And that's where we're at. I mean,
but you have to handle that in a way that they feel like they've been heard, and then you re-present your point of view. They've got to feel like they've been heard. This is what active listening is about. That you have eye contact with the person, that you're not doing this, that you're leaning forward, you are engaged, you are nodding, you can restate what they've said. This is what I'm hearing you say. The more they feel as though they're being listened to, the more amenable they will be to listen to your point of view. And that's what I'm saying, is you've got to stay positive. And I'm not saying you, anybody in a position where they're receiving that passion. That person has to be ready to de-escalate the situation, recognize to that individual that they are being heard. You may never come to a full consensus about things, but they feel as though they have value, that they aren't being dismissed. And as a public servant, I found it hard sometimes to have someone tell me I didn't know what I was doing. And mind's eye, one particular individual, I don't know why I'm teaching. I don't know how you can teach the way you're teaching. You don't know what you're doing. And yet, this individual barely made it through 8th grade and really struggled with a lot of stuff, including reading. And I had to just back off and not say all that stuff and say, I hear what you're saying. And then echo back what I think they're saying. Active listening requires a two-way street, and it requires that you not demean the person with gesture, tone, or message. In your heart of hearts, you may think you're right, but in the heart of their hearts, they think they're right too. And as a public servant, you have to find a way of de-escalating the situation. And I think you've got to stay positive, and you've got to just move forward with an attitude of growth, not just for them, but for you and for the town. I'm just really concerned. The way things are going, our town's not going to get anywhere.
Well, let me, because we have history, we've been doing this for almost 9 years. The three of us.
20 years total, too.
Well, if you add up
Yeah,
all of our
add
time
up.
together, right?
Yeah, 9 years.
But when
Together.
the three of us started, and you remember, the typical select board meeting was utter chaos.
Yeah.
The room was filled, there would be people up on high levels with cameras, and it was
Yeah,
Fingerville.
It was unbelievable. It was insane, that was what it was.
right.
And we have always tried to be professional, tried to be courteous, give everybody a chance to speak. But where we drew the line was with bullies. And those very people that would come in and, well, I remember one particular person, this person created a website. And
Yes.
all she
Yeah,
would do, or he or she would do, would create anger and accuse us of things. I remember I supposedly was playing golf with a contractor every week. It's just insane stuff. So what we decided to do in order to basically flush this person out is every time this person would make a post or send an email, we would discuss it in open forum. Now, it probably wasn't very comfortable for that person. And in fact, it was about that time that you actually wrote us a letter of support because it was so ridiculous
yes,
how we were
yes.
being treated.
Yeah,
And you know what? Standing up to that bully, pushing back, it worked. That
It
person
stopped.
finally pulled away.
it stopped.
That has happened to us over and over and over. And I got examples here where the language that you just cited, we've used this. We used it in the town report. We use this in response to the letter that the Historical Society sent. And I'm not dredging that up because we don't, but people need to take ownership. If you're gonna undermine the process, you've got to be willing to come in and talk to us. This most recent one,
Yeah, can I go on to the?
Well,
I posted it because, for one, not naming names, but that was the front runner. That was the chariot that said, "This is how this is gonna work. This is how we got to do this," and it developed in this room to a point where we all were on board, and then, unbeknownst to me, all of a sudden I get blindsided, and then all of the people that worked that hard
Bingo.
for weeks on weeks got railroaded. It wasn't me that got railroaded. It was the people that worked and worked and
It was
worked
you.
and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
felt
Yeah.
and felt like they were being
led down this pathway to consensus and teamwork, and all of a sudden that was not it. And I was not gonna put up with, I was gonna make a statement where somebody realized that, hey, if we do these committees and we come to a point, we come to agreement and we work to bring 100 people that haven't been to a vote before, or 100 people to a room, that's the kudos. But when you get to the point where you're literally blindsided, and they're the ones that were the front runners of getting this off the ground, I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. But I put it up because I was not gonna have somebody think they were gonna push me around and then blindside me.
And that's what I'm saying is that kind of a reaction is going to perpetrate that kind of behavior.
History
they don't
demonstrates otherwise.
I bet
Not against
they don't
bullying.
push me around.
I just gave you, and you would agree, our pushback with that individual nearly 10 years ago, it worked. It worked. And if we had just ignored it, basically tacitly approving it, she would have kept going.
Now, am I saying that maybe I could have handled it differently? I probably could. And there's no doubt. And there's no doubt that it could have been done in a different manner, and maybe with some active and positive parts in it. I just wanted to make a statement that you're not gonna push me around like that, and you're not gonna blindside me.
And this
From
is
here on out, I'm not disagreeing.
There's a
I'll go
huge
positive.
difference between disagreeing. You can like it this way, and I can like it that way, and that's fine. But if you attend a meeting on the 27th and repeat over and over and over again that this plan requires the demolition of municipal buildings, and you know that that's false, you know that on the 6th that was discussed and you agreed that that wasn't part of the plan, but you go ahead and you say that over and over again, that's not a disagreement. That's a deliberate misrepresentation.
That's sabotage.
It's not a tone thing. It's, you're making something up to try to undermine the process. Motive, I have no idea. I don't know what motivates people to do those things. But we have to push back.
Well, that's where I'm saying you don't have to do it that way.
Well,
I mean, as
I think-
educator, in my world as an educator, we were told you cannot.
Right, but you know what?
Cannot.
As elected official, you must. Do you think Margaret Chase Smith would be remembered today if she hadn't pushed back against Joseph McCarthy? Do you really think that she did the wrong thing?
No,
Of course not.
but that was,
It's exactly the same. It's
But
parallel.
to me, the meeting,
How
because I've
is
had
it?
people talk to me about the meeting, and they almost felt that meeting was overrun with almost like a bullying tactic, and everybody, if there was anybody there that was actually for it, didn't dare to speak up. And just because of the tone and the way it was being allowed to be handled. And all of these people that was on the committee, there was only one person on the committee that tried to speak at that meeting.
And he was shut down.
Correct. So I almost interpret it as I'm sitting there,
Yeah.
and I was feeling that same way. It was almost an intimidating role of the way it was being talked about or whatever. And everybody else, you didn't speak. There was many other people that didn't speak. And it was all, to me, that's how I interpreted that. It was almost like the people that were a part of these committees were just either intimidated or felt bullied or whatever, but nobody spoke up about that.
And anybody can change their mind. If the folks that showed up at the special meeting said, hey, first of all, I want to tell you, I was on board with this a few weeks ago, but after thinking about it, I've totally changed my mind. You have every right to do that.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yep.
But you can't undermine a process that the whole community invested dozens and dozens of hours in with total fabrication and not expect someone to call you on it. And if we're not going to be the ones to call them on it, I don't know who is going to.
And at the end of the day, that meeting and that was committee based. That wasn't,
It was a lot of work went into that.
it wasn't us that moved that forward. It was the committee
Yeah,
that did that.
yeah, yeah.
It was a lot of
The
work.
day before Thanksgiving,
No kidding.
right? I mean, things like that, people don't know that.
Right.
No, to
Right.
stand there on the 12th and say this whole thing was rushed, they haven't taken the time they need to take, when you're actually the person who picked the date for the meeting. That's how absurd it was.
And then before we had the meeting out here, the information meeting, I'm told that I flip-flopped and I was worried because I was gonna lose my job.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell the whole town, I'm not here because of money.
Well, the one thing that what I thought was impressive was everybody bragged, and kudos, I do think you did a good job, so I don't want you to think anything differently.
No, I don't.
But everybody at the meeting bragged at how great of a job you did, you orchestrated this committee and everything else. And throughout that entire conversation, that entire group said you did such a great job, but then threw it right back at, well, you didn't provide, we don't have the information we need.
Yeah,
Well,
based on
how
what.
did you do a good job?
Exactly.
Well, those
You
are the
didn't
same
provide the-
individuals that were given homework that didn't complete the homework.
No,
Let's
I
put that
understand,
out
I'm just trying to say, that was the
Now-
mindset was,
there. I don't
People
disagree
don't wanna
with
know
you
the
at
truth.
all
Right.
on positivity, gross positivity. So now I've made my statement that you're not gonna push me around, not gonna be a bully. You're not gonna tell me that I'm afraid to lose my job and I'm here for money, because that's just not how that goes. And from here on out, I plan on, that is the positivity is the way. We've talked about the newsletter. Matt's got a place in the newsletter for him. He's been, this past 2 weeks, he's been working hard with FEMA and all of that. So those are the things that we do need to bring together now. And now we have the committee meeting for the office, the municipal building, the town hall, on the 8th at 6 o'clock. Those are the things that need to be brought up, and we need to grow from that. And, now that I kind of feel like this water's under the bridge, we're gonna move on. And I'm not, I've made my statement, I'm not gonna be pushed around, I'm just not that kind of person. Now, you and I don't always have the same view, we have a great relationship.
Yep.
I adore our relationship, because we can have conversations at the table, and that is the way it should be.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to encourage.
Ultimately,
Is-
everybody in the town is gonna have a different opinion, and what it boils down to is 51% of the town that comes to vote is gonna voice their opinion.
Yep.
And we don't all have to have the same opinion.
Nope.
I don't have 100% the same opinion as anybody in this room,
Yep.
and that's sort of it.
But if we can conduct things in a manner where we don't have someone in the audience jumping up and doing this.
Oh, no
As
kidding,
part-
but how do we
But we
control
can't
that? We
That's
can't
beyond that,
control
yeah.
that.
We can't.
so.
I mean, I don't think we
I
set
think you
the tone. I don't
We did not, if you believe we somehow
set the tone on that.
were the
on
No,
that-
catalyst for
no.
that?
No,
No, what I'm saying is, I think you can stop that by recognizing, whether it be the meeting moderator
yeah,
Or-
who was,
or some kind of side mediator who just says, excuse me, we can't listen to your message that way. Can you put your hand down? And, but
Yeah.
I'm
No,
serious,
yeah.
I'm serious.
I really think
this won't
Sometimes
happen.
you have to teach civility to people.
But I
Some
think you're
people
on
don't
a
know.
key, you're saying something I think is very key that I've been thinking about. I really, especially after that meeting, I can see the value in having a moderator that is not part of our community.
yes,
Having a
Yes.
100%,
That has been a
not knowing
lessons
this,
learned.
anybody, you know what I mean? He's staying there and his job is to run that meeting.
yep,
And to me, I think that, no disrespect for Paul, I mean, he's
He's been a wonderful moderator.
100%.
he has,
I've trusted him
Yep,
even
fully
when
agree.
I want to kick him in the shin sometimes, but
But I
I
think
trust
some
him
of
as a
what you're
moderator.
saying, if we had somebody that doesn't know your citizens and doesn't have any interest
none.
for or against us, any
Right,
topic,
right, totally
and his sole
neutral.
job is to run that meeting, I think that would have had value.
Because the lack of civility, if it hadn't have been for Jody, well, I wouldn't have still been sitting there. That's point blank. Because when I looked at her and she said, Please don't, not right now. Cause I
But see,
was,
that's the thing, that's what needs to be done, is to put the check on, adults are no different than children. If they haven't learned
Right, well,
behavior,
we got a lot of
it-
citizens that
there
don't
needs to
have
be
any training.
lessons. And if
Yeah.
that lesson is just, I understand that you're upset, but we need to listen to your message in a way that we can hear it and understand, and grasp the full knowledge of it without the anger behind it. And just
Yeah,
put people on notice that civility is the baseline
yeah,
for any meeting, from the board side or the public side. It starts with being civil, with being polite, with allowing people to speak without interruption, with having the ability to reiterate what you think the person has said, so if corrections need to be made to your understanding, it can be done. Your meaning, like.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just, I'm encouraging you to take the lead in creating a culture of civility in Sangerville.
I totally appreciate it. I feel like we have, I'm not saying we can't do more, but I really feel like we're in the best place we've been in the last 10 years with regard to what you're talking about.
Oh, we are definitely in a better place than we were a while ago. There's no question of that.
And every town, if you go to a town meeting, every town is gonna have one or two people who yell something, it's totally out of context, you can't really help that. I mean,
Correct.
unfortunately in Sangerville, the ratio of those is pretty high. I mean, one person yelled, "Where did that money go, in your pocket?"
Yeah.
It's like, I
yeah.
don't even know who this person is. And we didn't respond, I mean, it's just,
Well, that
Yeah.
was,
but I mean, there was a
I
lot
know.
of that we just didn't respond to, we were just sitting there.
Yeah, what do you say? There is no positive, there's no negative, just zip.
it's just,
If it was
yes.
100 years ago, they would've been throwing cabbages at us.
But see, that's the thing, is that kind of firebomb thrown at you should get no response.
Right, well,
Right.
we
We did-
didn't.
we didn't.
Other than, I understand from what you said that you're upset.
But that's the
That,
that
I
was
mean,
the bottom.
if anything were done, that would have been the thing.
The
to
person
say.
that I didn't know who said that they didn't trust us, I only responded to the comment and said, please, if you have any trust issues, please call one of us.
Right.
So-
Was that out of line?
No, and I
Oh.
think that needs to be reiterated, is that you are approachable, you want to hear from people.
We have-
And that's, it just, I understand,
Yeah.
you're trying, you are trying but
But I think the other part of the problem is there's too many people, and the longer I sit here, the more I learn this. There's too many people that don't understand how town government works.
exactly,
And, you know what I mean? So they don't know how it works, so they have their own interpretation, you know? I mean, we've seen examples of some towns have on the website, don't call your selectman, you call the town manager. You know?
Yeah.
Whereas we're, call us. There's other towns that are out there is, don't come to the selectmen's meeting with questions. You submit your question to the town manager before the meeting, so it's on the agenda to do it properly. So I mean, I just feel that when we hear this don't trust thing, and then knowing how open we are and available, and we get no responses, nobody reaches out to us. It's rough.
Sometimes we have to be Gandhi, and sometimes we have to be Margaret J. Smith. That's just the reality of it.
So,
well, I would encourage you to continue,
Gandhi.
working on the civility.
I'm sorry,
No.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but Diane, the other thing that, you know, I feel like you're somewhat of a liaison for us to this community, sitting out there.
yeah.
And you, because you served on the committee, you got a sense of getting a barrage from nowhere, you know, so you understand what we have endured. And, you know, I would hope, and I know you so well, that you would have this conversation with anyone, any other citizen that you felt you
Absolutely.
could approach and have this conversation. And I
Absolutely.
think that's the conversation you need to have, and, or anyone can have with other citizens to make sure that everybody is civil. So, you know, and sure, it starts with leadership, and, you know, I appreciate the input that you have given us, and, you know.
Over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been working together since the beginning.
Yes, yes.
So-
And so, you know, we'll keep treading forward, and, hope that we can improve the tenor and the temperature and the tone of everything that's going on.
And I think one of the beginning blocks for that is definitely get that newsletter going. People appreciated that. I think that's one of the reasons why you had so many people at the meeting, is because there was
The mail.
to the door
Yeah,
communication.
yep.
Yeah, so-
That's been worthwhile. and
Yeah, there's no
worth the
question, the
money.
newspaper is kind of
No,
The
beyond us.
newspaper doesn't work
No.
as much as you are, you record the meetings, you put them on the website. There are a lot of people who are not tech savvy. They don't know how to find something if they get to the website, or they don't have the means because they don't have a laptop or a computer or a smartphone. And, you know,
Anybody who says that incidentally, remind them that they're all members at the Guilford Library and they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
computers.
Oh, I understand that, but,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, if you're an individual without any kind of technology skills at all, going to the library isn't going to make it much of a
But
difference
any of these
to you.
people though, if they want minutes, all they need to do is stop at the town office.
Yeah.
They're available.
Yeah, we own.
I mean,
and
there's
they're
so many.
comprehensive too.
Yes.
This isn't you, but
Now,
some people,
yes.
they almost come off like they expect us to spoon feed them information.
What they do.
Well, yes, they do.
And
And
obviously
and
that
we
can't be
can't.
done.
I mean, Mike, how many hours did you spend on the phone today?
Over 5 hours today.
Today on town business? You know, with informing people. And
And a lot, I had 2 hours with one individual and it was just talking about engineering and the background of that building and I mean, I appreciate their interest, but I mean, it's
It's consuming.
It's-
incredible.
I understand it's
Yeah,
consuming.
yeah.
And we're basically volunteers.
Yeah,
Oh, I know that.
I mean-
Teachers are too.
yeah, true.
They
Yeah.
are. But it's just, thank you. I want to thank you for listening.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming.
No.
And, you know,
It's all good. I
I'm
mean,
gonna-
it's a first, you know,
I'll continue trying to push for civility.
thank
Um,
you, that's good.
And
That's-
if there's a way that I can help with the newsletter in some manner, I'd be happy to help
I
with
think
that.
civility starts with them actually contributing. So if they start getting involved, not just
Yes.
with the committee over here for the building, steering committees, strategic committees, road committees, any Parks and Rec needs help, like, no, you know. So they start getting involved, their criticism of other people doing actions and work will go down because they're gonna realize, well, these people devote a lot of time to this
You're
stuff.
exactly right.
And so their rhetoric and chaos might diminish a little bit if they actually get involved.
Yeah,
Well, and that I think is why there was so much, let's say, feedback at the town meeting, is because people who hadn't been a part of it were learning for the first time. Rather than being a part of the committee,
yeah,
rather than being a part of the government seat on that, they were coming to the party late,
yeah,
and the catch-up was messy.
yeah.
And that's why I think, again, having something that comes to your mailbox that you can open up and read at an 8th grade reading level or less, can
That's a good, very good
can
point,
make,
very good point.
which is why I'm offering.
I know.
Oh, there you
anything,
go,
Whatever.
there you go.
So, all right, I don't want to make this a meeting.
Nope, yeah,
No, thank you.
you did go beyond 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry. I do have a problem with that.
It would be interesting though, just because I would like to see this newsletter be a more frequent thing. Either we could come up with a way as a sign up, or, you know, who truly wants it, because
True, you don't.
Like for me and my household, we all have computers, we have smartphones.
Right,
I
you
don't
don't
need
need
it.
a piece of paper.
I
that
don't
comes to the
need
house.
that cost added to the town for me because I'm gonna read it here.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
see,
but
and
I don't
that-
wanna take away from the people that do need that,
So
so.
maybe that would be a start. Again, I go back to the idea of having had an email list that's only used as a BCC.
Yeah.
So no one has anybody else's address.
Right.
And if you want it done electronically, you can be part of the BCC list. If you want to have
A print?
a print copy, a hard copy,
Sign up at the town office.
Yeah.
or don't even, I mean,
Or the
Yeah.
very first couple, they
I
just.
mean,
have sign up area.
if you could be on a BCC, you can just look at the same article on the town's website,
Yeah.
because you
yes,
have a computer.
yes,
If
because
you
And if you
have-
don't have a
Saturday
computer,
night, I get email.
and you can't go to the library, you can sign up at the town office.
Right.
And get a hard copy of the newsletter.
Sure.
And that should basically cover everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
Cause that's the only, I mean, by the time, I mean, you just figure that, you know, if we're gonna do this multiple times a year with the postage and everything else,
Yeah,
it's,
it's
gonna add up.
It's a line item.
yeah.
I would say so, it becomes a line item.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
On our
just, I
budget.
don't want that, I don't wanna see a line item get too big that people say, no, why are we paying that? You know, if we can
If you want
not send it to me or
inform.
not send it to this one, you know what I mean, and get it to the, keep the number down low enough so we can continue to do it for the people that actually need it. And not just sending it to everybody and half of them are doing this.
Throwing it out.
Throwing
right
it
in
away
the
because
post
they're
office.
looking it
Right,
online.
Right.
I don't know what the ratio would be, people that
Well,
couldn't look at the website. I mean, do you think it's 20%, 30? I don't know.
I don't know,
I
but
have
I
no
know,
idea.
I know myself that when those were mailed out, they were seen in the trash can at the post office. So, that's all I'm saying, let's get it, I would like to figure out a way to do it in a manner that gets to the people that truly need it, that,
Well,
because they
the
can't use it, and if you don't need to get it, you don't get it.
I mean, if you bother to sign up, you want it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yes,
yes,
yeah.
but the other thing too is that, the mailings that we had, the two mailings that went out were about a specific topic.
Yeah.
As opposed to a newsletter, which is pretty generic in some respects, in terms of there's news from the fire department, news from the historical society, news from the select board. It calls for people to join the Arts and Rec Committee. It's much more, as opposed to people who have a passion about the town hall and they see this is the town office, yeah, no. It's not gonna, it's, you know, that's, they're showing to themselves
Yeah, exactly.
their, I'm not gonna.
Disdain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
disdain,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
opposed
Yeah.
to a newsletter,
Yeah.
which is trying to embrace them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, calling the town hall, or town office, calling, or emailing, or showing up and saying, I wanna have a hard copy. Perfect, but I would do this for a while
Yeah.
to suss out where everything goes.
Yeah.
So, but there we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
6 o'clock?
6, yeah.
6.
Item 5, Town Hall Building, committee meeting 8 January, 6 PM.
Oh, yeah,
That was the next thing on our agenda.
but I'm not gonna get involved.
Yeah, yeah. You'll be there, right, Diane?
I will be there.
Good, there you go.
Yeah.
I think also during that meeting, I gotta incorporate something about other options for town office. Unless I start another committee for what are we gonna do with the town office?
Well, I mean, we could just simply recycle what we did on the 12th. I mean, it's a great option. It doesn't mean it'll get passed, but, I mean, do you just quit? Or do you keep trying to get it across the
Or keep
line?
it as
So
a,
I think from the vote, what I learned is if I start another committee for the town office, not the town building, is dissect other options. Do we purchase, do we build, or do we go back into that? It kind of bleeds over I don't know, I gotta see how I'm gonna attempt this, because lessons learned from the last committee meeting, the first 3 meetings spun around us going back into that building.
Right,
So
Yeah.
do
yeah.
do I burn 2 Monday nights in a month to talk about the same topic? Or, so I need to shape this somehow that gets after both things at the same time.
And bifurcate.
So the other
But
thing
separate.
too that that you need to figure out how the heck you're gonna do it. The one thing that everybody kept saying at that meeting is, well, we want one article and we want choices. Well, that's illegal. That's not how it works.
Yeah,
You
on,
know,
on.
you can't do that. You need to have an article that says, this is what we're gonna do and this is the money we're gonna spend. Or, now you could come up with, say if you have choices, the only way that I'm noodling this and could come up with, say you have three options. You could have 3 separate articles, and you could open one up for discussion. You could table the vote until you went to the next one, but somewhere along the lines, you've gotta either pass one over to get to the next one.
Yes,
You can't.
You can't have X number of people vote for one and another. vote
Correct.
for- And then,
that's how we came to.
Well, what they're describing is ranked choice voting.
yeah.
you can't do
yeah,
that.
That's not the way it works.
No.
So I'm
the
not really
other-
sure, that's where you gotta be cautious about, I know what you're trying to say and I understand it, but I'm just trying to move you forward to a voting scenario. How are you gonna write 3 separate line items?
Well, and one of
Well,
the things.
first
I
of
know
all,
you can.
with regard to the old building, you could in theory throw up an article that says, we're gonna move into the old building and we will spend up to X to get back in there, okay? But truthfully, we don't even know what X is. Now, you could do that, but I think that would be irresponsible. If you're gonna tackle the old building, you need to appropriate funds for an engineering assessment to get in there. 40,000, 50,000, whatever that you would need, so somebody can say, okay, we think we can get you compliant. That's your first step.
Adam's writing the proposal on what that number would look like, to
The-
just do an estimate.
At Plymouth Engineering.
Correct.
Good. Good.
So, so let's say Adam comes back, because I know where Carpenter was, I know where Carpenter was 2 years ago.
Right.
So $1 million is not a stretch to probably get your liability insurance back. Nothing else is gonna be done, but probably
I don't even know if $1 million would do it, right?
yeah, well, maybe not, but
Yeah.
that's probably a very low number.
Mhm.
I don't see 2 of us, because that's what it takes to put an article on the warrant. I don't see 2 of us suggesting that we spend $1 million to go back in there. Now, that doesn't mean we're right or wrong, I doubt that will pass. So the only way that's gonna happen is if somebody else says, it's really important to us, we want you to spend $1 million to go back in there, and they do a petition. It will be on there, but it's not gonna get on there. I don't see me ever voting to do that.
If it's if we feel that it's irresponsible. It's
Well,
not-
I just don't think it's in the best interest of the town by even a stretch, but people can disagree with me, I don't have a
But
problem with
if a
that.
committee gets together and then puts together,
Yeah, we want $1 million, we'll just stick with $1 million because it's easy to, right, okay?
and they do a petition,
Then it
and
will
they
be
get
on
the
there.
X
But
number of
they were, so at the last committee that we had, that was educated, that if you want it all to go back into that building, you gotta do a petition for a warrant.
right. And did anyone do it?
And you're not gonna have, and you're not gonna have comprehensive coverage on your $1 million investment.
No,
You're not gonna get there.
no.
You might be able to get your liability insurance back, which would allow you to put your office back in there. I don't see 2 of us supporting that. So that question isn't gonna be on there unless
A petition.
there's a
They-
citizen initiative.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a citizen initiative, that's right. That's right.
And I don't see that happening.
Well.
Well, you
we'll
really
see.
already had one committee come up with that's not really viable. I mean,
No, there's
Other
no
direction.
I
I
mean,
mean-
the 2 glaring options would be, if we failed at the new build, would be the Robinsons building. Because it's already accessible. Those are the only 2 that I see.
Dollars and cents wise,
that doesn't even.
Plymouth already said it's 50% more money, no one's gonna do that.
Right. Well, it's 50% more money, you're not gonna get any federal funding on it, because you're buying
Correct.
something and not building something.
And you're pulling whatever the tax is.
$5,032.
So that's not.
So you're
gonna-
taking
that's
five,
not gonna
so,
happen.
doesn't matter how much you
But
spend,
we
you're
see-
automatically taking $5,000.
We did all
away
this.
from the town.
I,
Doesn't even make sense.
There were people in those committees that came with the idea of restoring that building. And as they gained information, they realized it wasn't financially plausible. And some of them became spokesmen for this process. All we can do, I think, is just keep doing it. Yeah,
If I could add my 2 cents on that, because I was on that committee, is that it wasn't, I think it was clear from the beginning that it wasn't a committee to try and get the town office back in the town building. It was to explore options for the town office. And the town hall building was a separate issue that would be discussed at a later time.
Yep.
It wasn't that the committee made the decision that the town hall wasn't a viable option for a town office.
for the town office,
Right.
that's exactly what Mr.
That's-
Campbell did. He came in thinking he was gonna save that building. As he learned more and more information, he's like, it's not a viable option for the town office.
But what I'm saying is that Patrick made it very clear that the committee was to explore options for a town office,
Right,
Right.
right.
not options for town office back in this building.
That's right.
There were
That's right.
there were two paths to be taken.
That's right.
This committee was gonna work on the town office, another committee is gonna explore options for the town building.
Correct.
You understood that correctly. I don't know whether everyone understood that, even after the end of all those.
The problem is
Honestly,
people can't separate it.
Yeah.
I do
Right,
think
I mean,
it makes sense, if you can connect this critical service to that building, it's a way of saving that building.
That's,
And it's
What-
almost like a human shield.
yeah, you
It's not
put,
that
you
it's
put the
necessary.
put the hostages in there and we're
Correct,
not
and then
gonna,
you
we're not
can't
gonna
do
burn the
anything to
building.
it. That's
Well-
the mindset for some people.
But
Right.
that was actually a comment at the meeting, somebody actually said that. If you don't put the town office back in the building, what are you gonna use the
We're
building
not
for?
gonna save the building. And what are you
No.
gonna use it for?
And then it begs the question, what do we need it for?
Well, that's my
Well,
other.
that's the committee's job.
Right,
Correct.
right.
That's Monday's job.
That's, yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
But you understood the purpose
Yes.
and the goals.
yes.
I don't think everybody did. And not for lack of you explaining it, because I was
Well,
there.
No,
Because I
Every
had
single
help
meeting.
writing it in 8th grade level.
I suspect though, there's more of what we just talked about.
Yes,
It isn't so much
yes.
that you don't understand,
Yes.
is that it goes against what you want. And
Yeah.
what you want is for that building to be there, even if it's nonsensical financially, you still want it. And I think that's what we ran into.
Yeah.
Okay, so lesson learned, at the end of every committee meeting, there should be a reiteration of
Yeah.
what was the conclusion reached at that meeting.
And a whiteboard or something, like this is the conclusion of this meeting. Are we all in agreement that this is what we understand walking out of here tonight?
Well, I think at the end of the day, I'm not the president of that board over there. There needs to be somebody, I'm the facilitator,
Yeah.
and that is it. Somebody needs to be a president of that committee, because
Not me.
But
we'll
but
see
in
who
terms
shows
of
up.
options,
See who shows
I
up.
really think we've thoroughly vetted it.
Oh.
I don't think you're ever gonna come up with a better option of building on land that we already own with an opportunity to get 85 cents returned to us from the federal government. I don't think you're gonna do better than that. If you have one, I can't wait to hear it.
I'll comment for another day.
If there is one, that would
It's-
be
well,
great.
okay, yeah, I think there's a plan B,
Okay.
and I spoke to you of that option. It's just maybe not my time to talk about it now. I bid you adieu.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.
So, we're still on this topic.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
But it seems like you're going to do the same thing over again. unless
That's what it
it's-
feels like to
yeah,
me, too.
Unless.
I am
What's that the
Well,
definition
why
of?
though? Yeah,
insanity.
Yeah.
but no, you can't do that.
No,
You-
I agree with
You have
Jody.
to take a different path, because, I mean, my God, right? You have to
What's the
establish
point, I guess?
a different path.
What would that path be?
I think you have to nail down, what are you gonna do with that building? I think you have to get a full-scale evaluation, soup to nuts, top to bottom, what that building is gonna cost to make it compliant, to make it usable, top floor, downstairs, everything.
Dale,
I understand.
Plymouth shot us a number,
I know
okay?
that, I've seen the numbers
Again,
for the
it's-
last 3 years.
It's not gonna, I don't think it will
And it's not-
persuade these people at all.
But that's the only way is until you can get them to separate the two. You gotta have a use, they've either gotta decide what they're gonna do with that building. Plain and simple.
But in the meantime,
You're not gonna get
we
a
need
new
to town
town.
office.
You're not gonna build.
They're gonna hold it hostage.
They're gonna hold it hostage,
My
just like they
personal-
just did.
My personal opinion is, I think if there was a way in that warrant to have it be written that if federal funding was not procured, that we revisit whether that building was built or not, you'd be applying for money right now. Honestly, myself, that's what I think. But I think that's what held everybody up, is what, that if the funding wasn't there, it was gonna get built anyway, just out of reserve, and they weren't okay with that. That's my personal opinion.
Well, if
Majority-
if you're right on that, and I'm not
I
disagreeing with you, then there's no way that they're gonna put $1 million into the old building.
Right, right.
I think.
No,
my
I think
personal
you're right,
opinion
Matt. I
is
agree
that
with
if that
him.
warrant was written saying, do you agree for us to apply for congressionally designated funding, and if approved, we agree to pay the 15% match,
Flip it around the other way.
we'd be done.
Do you approve building, spending up to $400,000 if approved for federally matched funds?
Right. I think what held everybody up is there was no contingency on if there was no funds awarded. And everybody saw.
Right, because our
I don't-
plan was to go ahead.
I
because
think the
we-
hostage takers are not, that's not gonna make any
It's gonna make
difference
any
to them.
difference. I think half the people, you're probably right, the
Yeah.
other half the people would have made a difference, cause until you can nail down that building, they're not gonna vote one way or another.
Yeah, that's my personal opinion, obviously, everybody.
No, that's great input. I
I think
honestly,
that's what held back at least multiple people that I've talked to. That's what held them back, was just the fact that if there was nothing in there, that if we were declined funding, that we were going to revisit to say, okay, yeah, I guess we're gonna take it all out of the reserve. They wanted the option, that if this funding was not gonna be awarded, we weren't gonna just go ahead and do it anyway, because we had to do it, which we do, and I understand you need a place, but I think that's what held up a lot of people. My personal opinion. And I don't know, I honestly,
the
I don't
voice.
send you guys a seat, so I don't know if you can even word a warrant that way.
Well, and that's-
Well, what
You
happens
could.
is,
Right.
based on, if I understood
If you
your
were-
conversations,
Yeah.
a warrant worded that way with the congressional funds isn't considered as a weighty commitment.
Right, right,
Yes.
you're absolutely
So
right.
you're like, can we please have some money?
And
they
if we
get a
do
lot of
get the
that.
money, they get a lot of that. So what we were trying to do is ramp it up to the next
But what if-
level of asking the federal government,
Which I
saying,
under-
our town's willing to come up.
Well, we were in a unique position in that we were asking for something that was literally essential.
Yeah.
We have to have a town office. Whereas some towns might say, hey, if we could get a new gazebo.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, right? That's not what we were doing.
I totally agree with that, I just wonder if it was worded differently and with townwide letters of support to go with it to boost up that commitment maybe, then possibly it may have a different outcome. It may not have.
Well, I think the only problem that I think is worded the way we worded it, or the way it was worded by us and the committee,
Yep.
they helped with that. We were up here, high on the list to get federal funding.
Yeah.
If we worded like we were just talking about, to try to get it.
Then you're in this, you're
here.
down in the pond
Because
with
you're like,
everybody
well,
who's
yeah, they
asking.
just want free money, they don't really, if they don't get
Yeah,
it,
they're
they're
not
gonna figure out how to
willing
get
to-
by.
In fact,
Yeah.
they could allocate it and we wouldn't be obligated to do it.
And
Right.
I understand both sides of it, trust me,
Yeah.
I've been dealing with the whole grant world as well for other stuff, but it's just,
Yeah.
my personal opinion, I think that's what held up a lot of people. Obviously, I think you guys are 100% correct, that there are people that are just dead set on being
Yeah,
back in there, and that's, nothing's gonna change their mind.
Right.
But you may have seen 51% if there was a difference in some of the wording, which I don't know.
We'll have to dissect it and see.
The question
I mean,
would've been-
it's gonna have to be teed up.
My personal opinion, I've been here for 36 years. I understand people have commitment to, or attachments to that building. It's too big in my eyes. It's really not, I don't think it's worth going in there, but I think people are too concerned about, well, if I vote to apply for money and I don't get it, then they're just gonna do what they want. And that's their view on it. Whether or not it's correct, it's just that's their view, and they get it stuck in their head. I don't think going down that road is the best way, but I'll sit on the committee and voice my opinion and let everybody decide, but.
Well, it's interesting because most young people that I speak to that are landowners and taxpayers in this town don't want to be strapped with a $6 million project because they're the ones that are going to be footing the bill, not us. I mean,
Well, it's utilization. I mean, we all know that, I mean, since the library left,
right.
prior to that, it was the only utilization beyond the town office.
Yeah, foot traffic. And,
Yeah, there was nothing.
Anything.
So that's not gonna change.
The
I don't-
dances that were in there are never coming back.
No, and Starbucks is not gonna lease
I
a
know some
space.
people are kind of, you know, they got, their heart is attached to that, and I completely understand it. Some of my family is completely attached to it. But ultimately, we're not in that same generation.
Right.
And the
right.
people nowadays, they're not gonna leave their smartphone or their computer and go to a dance. It's never gonna be that again.
Yeah.
So,
It's history.
I wanna do something that's financially sound. Obviously, congressional funding is great. I think people just need to feel like they're being heard so that they can feel like they have their say.
Well,
And maybe that's, we just try to, even if we reduce the likelihood that we'll get the money, it's better than no shot at all.
20% is better than zero.
Correct.
yeah. So tee it up again.
Tee it up again, but with that
no
condition.
commitment.
Yep. Yep.
20% is 20%, 0% is still zero.
Yeah.
Still think you gotta tax the building. Or you're either doing the building,
Oh,
you're fixing the building, you're going into a nonprofit.
Yeah,
Because
The bill is not going
Really,
anywhere.
that's completely.
No, but what I'm saying
Yeah.
though is back, if you take it to like what Matt's saying, okay? Once you get that mindset of moving it in the right direction,
Then
it's
it will-
much easier to have the same momentum with that same group of people who already realize the financial impact.
Yeah.
Might help us move that forward in the right direction as well.
My personal opinion, I'd love to apply for the congressionally designated funding. I'd love to get it. I'd love to build a new building, and I'd love to give that to a nonprofit and let
Yes.
them try it.
100%.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that,
That
but
was the whole,
obviously
plan.
things aren't always gonna go the way that we
No.
want.
To me,
No.
it's, I mean, I love that idea, and I also, only because I know it's a huge thing right now in our community, I'm also open to the idea that however it was done, but go to somebody to turn into a housing complex, because
Either way.
that's needed,
The biggest thing is people
so,
wanna see the
He's
building
still
stay the
interested,
same.
by the way.
yeah.
He's gonna be on the warrant this time. We owe it to him.
Okay.
I mean, whatever happens, happens, but,
Yeah. All right.
okay. We good with that?
Yep.
For now?
Yes.
New business policy updates.
so, over the past month, 2 months, as you know, Michelle and I have been looking through some of our policies and SOPs and stuff. And then there's been a couple of things that have tripped or piqued my in-depth interests. And some of them haven't been updated since 1995, being the planning board. And I'm really concerned with, as you read it, there's nothing that constrains or restricts or holds anybody's feet to the fire in some of these SOPs. Because some of these incidences that has taken place, I think it needs to be, even though it's in black and white in legislature and in statute, it's not in black and white, and I take ownership of this, my policy right now, and it doesn't protect the town or the town's financial interests or liabilities going forward. So don't know if we need to form a policy committee, or if we just write, if I write these, we write these,
Select board does policies.
and then we
Select
go
board.
through, but I really need to escalate how we get them done and how fast we get them done with the finite crossing the Ts and dotting the Is, to avoid future opportunities that we could be in some trouble. Because
So the-
there's been some activity that is really concerning to me.
If you have it at the legislative level, you have it. You don't need a policy that duplicates what you already have.
Because we follow state
Now, we
legislation.
could have a
Correct.
policy that requires
That's
you
more
to follow state
restrictive.
law, but that's pretty much self.
I know it's redundant, but I think if I put that in there, that you follow this,
I think
I'm telling these individuals, you,
with regard,
You're
we'll
not
use-
God.
We'll use the
No.
planning board as an example. It really should be a requirement that anybody on the planning board reads the manual.
Yes, absolutely.
And I can tell you, because I was on the planning board, not everybody did, and some insisted they wouldn't. So, but that should be
Yeah,
a
a
policy.
prerequisite or
Yeah.
whatever that.
Right, so
And I think
for
it's the
me,
same with
that-
our job, to be honest with you, but a lot of selectmen throughout history have not read the manual, so.
and I'm bringing this up because it's that important, because some of the activity that has taken place is extremely concerning.
I agree with you.
And I need to go forward as a parallel again on how I deal with that situation going forward, but also I need to deal with policy. It's kind of like the old building in the town office. Again, it's that stuff. Cause I'm concerned with how much has this activity taken place over time with nobody else knowing.
But again, if you already have it in legislation, you don't need a policy. You already have it, because it's there.
Okay.
I mean, if you wanna duplicate it, you can. I'm not saying you can't by any means, but.
Yeah, it's
but
almost an
there's-
education component. By the way,
Yes.
you guys
Well,
should know these laws.
That's right,
Correct.
right.
And
That-
that's what I'm kinda saying,
Yeah.
is you can already, today, you can do that, cause you have it.
Right.
You don't need a policy for us to approve as a group in order to do anything, because you've already got the state side of that.
Okay, well, that's, a 2024 push is to update all of our policies.
Education.
100%.
Yeah, and the
Yep.
education,
Yep.
that
But-
everybody on that board needs to basically,
It's like, I was listening to another town's recorded meeting, and the town manager was making motions. Now, they've done this for years,
Forever.
yeah, it was just how they,
yeah.
and they don't really need a policy. What they need is some
to read-
education.
Right, read.
And a good
Or
example
the same one,
is
second motion.
Matt and I,
Like, yeah,
and this is a great example, because this is an active department head, as the fire chief, Matt and I have been talking about policy, the last storm was a perfect example, and we'll get into the FEMA thing later, but, how do we go through with an SOP, with something that took place like that, We're both learning about the pictures, how to apply for all the funds, but what about warming centers? Where did the, elderly go when they're out of power on Silver's Mills for 5 days? Those are the things that Matt and I had been talking about for the last week, about how we go forward with that. So those are some of the SOPs and policies that Matt and I are gonna work on. But again, that's the positive.
Right.
We have an active, engaged person that wants to do that, as opposed to the other side that I have to deal with.
we all do.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's it. Abatement, I have one that we had discussed before for John Bush. Michelle went to go file it, and they said, oh, he doesn't have veteran status on whatever. Well, then they called her back and said he does, so we can approve the abatement now, again.
Okay, so do I just, make a motion to approve the abatement for John Bush for $99.90?
Second.
All in favor? We're all in favor.
The next one is Edmund Gould's property. Michelle's been working on this. I held off getting with the lawyer because in the town report, we voted on an article for the, it's Article 10, that the select board can authorize the sale of tax refunded. So I didn't want to spend the money to talk to the lawyer
Do
yet,
you need triplicate?
Oh,
maybe.
Oh,
good for you.
Yeah, I just do what Michelle says.
Yeah.
that's why, yeah, we're trying to all follow that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
where
good
is she
rule,
at?
good rule, go with that.
Yeah. She's not here, I'm
It's
sweating. So, I didn't ask the lawyer yet, cause I didn't wanna spend the money for their consultation. But I wanted to talk to us one last time, because it was an article and it voted
But
on.
what do you need to talk to consult him for?
To see if we're within our legal bounds, because it was a tax acquired property. And the sewer district has part of that foreclosure on there too.
And what's the question again? I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I was
because
doing
I
it.
thought
So we voted on Article 10 of.
Yeah,
So do we need to go through anything other than we can just sell it to?
as long as it's foreclosed on now, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
and
it's
Jamie
ours.
Kluge wants to buy it.
No, that's,
So the question was, are we within bounds
It
of?
goes up, it
It
goes out to bid, and anything beyond what is owed goes back to the estate of.
Okay, so we're gonna put it out to bid, they can't
Have to.
direct.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
All right,
yeah.
now that's clear as mud.
Well, because think of it this way, the estate gets whatever is left, you have to have an honest number,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, that's, yeah.
They just
Okay.
changed that in June.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, no,
So
Well, we
actually-
used to keep all the money.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah.
So actually though,
Good old days.
where the sewer district's involved, we're gonna sell it, we keep our piece.
We-
Is it
them
our
off.
responsibility to pay the sewer district?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah, it is.
Teddy, I'm speaking to a lawyer over the last couple of days, and he basically said, yep, have the town take care of it. When they get their part, you get your part from them.
True,
The
because
rest
it's
is-
our property,
Yeah.
it's leaned against our property, so it would be our
So you would
responsibility
have
to
to
pay
clear
the
that up
sewer.
with us before it can.
Yeah.
Yep, that's,
Yep, that is, now that
Yeah, and
It's
that's
clean.
in my
always,
brain.
yeah.
But yeah, but
Okay.
it needs to go out to bid just because.
Right,
That's-
And with
make
that-
sure, yeah.
That will, Michelle and I will get on that, tomorrow. I just didn't wanna spend any
No,
consultation
I don't
on
think.
here.
no, I think it's
we're all
pretty,
straight.
pretty clear.
Okay, perfect.
And it falls, even though there's a new ruling on it, it falls in line with everything we've done in the past as far as to try to, the amount we're getting out of it, that's how we've always done it, is by bid, so.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So then, 7 Alpha, FEMA, MEMA, site survey, they came down yesterday. Matt and I went and took them around town, so they could see, Matt and I, well, I applied at the end of it, but Matt helped out with the initiative, for recovering some of this money from the last storm. What the state's trying to do is get to the certain threshold so the governor can request from the president for a national disaster amount. And, I did rough numbers from what I had for some of the roads, some of the trees down. Part of that was the fire department labor for that day. Well, it worked into almost 2 days. So that they could recoup that labor money. Also in there is the fire truck. They talked to us yesterday, they want the amounts. Matt was supposed to get it today, hasn't gotten it, for the estimate on repair. But they want the amount for deductible and anything beyond insurance, so that they can, give us the money for that. We actually went for, some rides on some roads and things that I hadn't put down because I hadn't estimated it yet. They actually did the estimate for us to improve some of the roads and some of that was damaged, some of the trees down. Now, cleanup and recovery on our end. The plan is which Matt and I went to go take them to some trees, and some of them were already gone because they've been used for firewood,
Oh,
which is perfect. We're still gonna get recouped for any of it, but, the plan is Matt's gonna get some volunteers from the fire department to come in and buck up some of the wood.
The cemetery damage,
that is included.
Good.
And that was part of,
I went there today, took pictures. They will include that in the declaration, and they'll pay out, if it's declared, they'll pay out to fix the gravestones and all that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
My crew will go Sunday morning is the plan, to try to clear up further into the ditches and bring that firewood down here so that Patrick can do what he wants to do.
so the plan for the firewood and why they're gonna do it this way is bring it to the public works. And we're gonna start kind of a free firewood for, especially those that need it. I think somehow they need to come and apply at the town office.
Yep.
That these individuals that need it, or a family member can apply for them to get the free wood. And we're gonna have it stationed up at the public works. It's not gonna be all, rock maple, it's not.
Right,
it's-
right,
It's,
right.
some of it's fir, some of it's spruce. I really don't care, I just want it. They come in, they apply for it, they get whatever they need. That's the plan going forward with any of this stuff, that we get down trees or calls or any of that, the plan to put it up there for them to get.
It's too bad that, so they came and they're gone, clearly, but they're gonna rely on pictures.
No, they're coming back.
They're coming
So this
back?
is an initial assessment.
So I noticed that the bank of the cemetery has really,
Yeah, you need to
really
make sure you hit that.
cascaded
This is a great
into
opportunity.
the river.
Yep.
And based on all of that.
The worst
wind
it's ever
and rain-
been.
Yeah, well, it gave way.
Yeah.
So-
It's given way.
Yep.
So what they
So-
told us is this is a preliminary assessment, and then once they get the declaration, they said they will be back to do a line item, this, every tree, footage, road.
Well, that's a big one.
But the state needs to hit a threshold.
They need
Yes,
to hit
yes.
it.
In order
How's
to-
it looking? Do you have any
The
idea?
They're
federal,
pretty confident.
Yeah, okay.
well,
They're very confident.
show them that bank,
There's
because
no
that's,
confidence of how it gets dispersed, just because everybody applies and it gets granted, doesn't mean
Right.
everybody gets
Right.
funds.
That's right.
So the only thing that I really wanna, that's why I'm saying this now, back to your comment about that cemetery. We need a plan to get that, there's other trees over there that have to come down.
Those pasture pines are
They've
dead.
all gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if, I don't know what we have available or what's left in any bucket of, well, actually, we're doing very well, but,
well,
we've gotta come up with a plan to get those out of there, cause we just keep creating more damage by not getting those out of there.
Yep.
So
So,
whether it's Angstrom or a like company like that with a bucket,
You got insurance and.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody gets hurt, takes out power lines, but I think, we need to be more proactive, especially around those cemeteries. And that one's bad, and I know even the one up past, the Grange Hall, that one's got
Yeah.
a lot of trees.
past Dennis Campbell's.
Yep,
Yep. Which is another topic of future is, I need to dig up the, forestry plan for all of our our public owned forestry.
yeah, and the person
The woodblock
to consult with is Toby Hall,
Yeah.
because he's the chair of that group, right, isn't he?
she kinda started a conversation.
Oh, what?
With that lot that's up in there, have we reached out to the Federal Bureau to find out how this works?
Now that we no longer have assets?
Right,
Oh, access to that's beyond,
Right.
yes.
Right, so I need to tee that email off. I had talked, to Mike about it, and I held off until now. So now I need to tee that off and send it. I already have the contact, already have everything ready to go. So I'm just gonna pull the trigger on that property, so.
Well, and the reality is they may have a resource available to help us with that access.
Yeah.
But that's really the bigger piece to this.
So, back to get us back on track, FEMA and the MEMA's, that's gonna be a continuous thing. And, lessons learned out of that, and that's part of the SOP Matt and I wanna write up is, how do we capture this stuff when a big event like that happens, to make it easier, cause for the next fire chief or the next town manager or going
Yeah.
forward, how does this work? Cause we wouldn't have known if we hadn't have actually stepped right into it. So, year-end budget. So Michelle put together a little thing, that just shows where we're at The big would be, the carryover, which is in the bold under fiscal year. And then if you see account shortages, it's in a little bit lighter font or it has a negative. That doesn't mean that we're, you know, in trouble or anything. The general fund, you can see where money left over, lapsed into the general fund or can lapse into the general fund. Now, this is just an example. So the plan going forward is, I would like to have either the first select board meeting or the second select board meeting of the month be some sort of a budget update, so you all see, you know, true lines of that month spent, where we're going forward, and the year to date. So I wanna tailor this. We actually have, an overage, well, we have a carryover of about approximately 100,000 that we didn't blow, it's about 70.
We don't do carryovers.
So, and it goes back to the general fund.
Correct.
But,
And reappropriated.
so, you know, I don't have to go ask anybody for money.
This was on roads? Your
Where is the?
Your-
Well, you do have.
your unexpended?
Well, it will end up being roads. Will
No, but
be-
you still have to, so that number, so you didn't spend it, that money no longer exists, it's gone.
Right.
So whatever you wanna spend next year, you have to start over again,
Right.
Yep,
so you still have.
but
to
it's all
ask.
good news.
Well, that's right, you know, and then going back to this last disaster, you know, Matt's gonna get his labor rate back, you know.
That don't work that way.
Well, that won't, cause it'll go to the general fund.
It all goes to
Right.
the general fund.
Okay.
The town will get it back.
Town will
Correct,
get it
the
back.
town.
The town
Right.
will recoup that.
Yep,
So, is there a special way that this once a month, that snapshot of budget you want, or however it's easiest for Michelle, or, you know, to be able to give the raw data a quick number? I don't know if we need all of the line items, or if it's department or directorate head, or division.
That's one thing for myself personally, I'd love to have it once a month, is something breaking down where I'm at. So
Yeah.
I can keep track.
I think I need to go forward. Not that we're not doing, you know, a good job at being fiscal and we're
Right.
not watching it, but we're not communicating it.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
I mean, this works. I mean, this works for me.
Just add it so that that's the last month and this month and.
Right, yes, yep,
All right.
yep.
Yep.
It keeps good tabs on every line.
Well, I don't want anybody stealing money.
so kind of, the only thing that I would say is, you know, we kinda have a column here that says carryover, and we have a column that says lapse to general fund.
Yep.
So there really isn't a carryover, it all gets lapsed.
Right, that's right.
So you only need one column.
Yep.
And when we get to, not to change the subject, but when we get to the budget process, the layout of, you know, 21, 22, 23, it's nice to have those columns
So you can see the
compare.
trends
You can
and
see exactly right.
Sure.
Okay. There should be a file in there, because we've done it that way the
Yeah.
last few years.
We have it.
Yeah.
And that's what she started building this
Good.
off of.
Yeah, that works really well.
Yeah. One thing from the budget leading into is audit, and, so Michelle and I had talked about, and we talked to you about once, do we go with a different auditing firm? And
Yes.
so the
I don't care.
firm that, she can get a hold of can do it in April. Now, the current one can do it in February.
Think about it this way. The general rule that we very much try to uphold is, as of right now, you are operating on no budget. So we try very hard to not expend any funds other than what is deemed necessary to get us till we have a town meeting. So if you're saying our audit's not till April,
That's better.
we're not gonna have a town meeting until
March.
April. You're not gonna have your town meeting until your audit's done. You can't finalize your budget until you have your audit completed.
Okay, I see where you're
So
going.
you're pushing-
Traditionally, I mean, we've been early the last few years, but traditionally April was when they did it.
Yeah, so that's the only, that's what I'm saying is,
Right.
you're not gonna finalize your budget process until your audit's done. So if everybody's okay for town meeting,
Being
pushed out until April.
April, but that then precludes going after the CDS money.
And it,
Well, this
This
tranche.
This year.
Yeah, you're not gonna
Yes.
get there anyway.
Right.
I don't
Well,
believe that's,
that Diane's
Maybe.
got a plan.
oh, the cryptic plan.
but that's my, I don't care either way, but I'm just, so you know, that's how we, you know, you need that piece to finalize the budget piece so you can have your town meeting.
Yeah, it's
You're
like all
okay
these
for
pieces
town
have to
meeting
fit
to-
together, all these cogs have to fit together to make the perfect storm.
April's fine as far as timing, but Dale's right. I mean, doesn't matter. So,
Either 6-1, half dozen the other.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, you know,
What's the difference in price?
There really isn't,
No, okay.
so.
if it's just somebody she likes working with, it's probably not that big a deal, so either way.
Okay. So for the safety of keeping the train rolling, I'll do February.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just, so as long as, if you're okay to have town meeting in April, and you don't, not planning any expenditures between, out of the ordinary between now and April,
We're good.
we're okay. I just didn't want to make sure you understood
Yeah.
that you have to have that audit before we can finish budget, so we can have a town meeting.
Which we have done in April many times. And if we
Used to.
hustle, we usually, the best we get is late February, so it's, you know.
I mean, to me, if Michelle is recommending this, there's an importance to this. And I myself am okay with this. I just wanted to make sure you understood
Yeah.
what it truly means.
I will discuss.
We have so much to get done between now and town meeting, that I don't think April
April's not bad.
is a long shot at all. We could easily end up there.
I don't know what you're thinking as far as, technically, you're not gonna get much going in April anyway, probably as far as roads go. You're barely out of postings.
Yeah.
No, you haven't missed it.
That's your only hiccup.
Yeah.
You can't order your culvert, you can't order anything till after we get through town meeting, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, you can order it, you just can't have them delivered.
They're just not gonna pay for them.
You're not gonna pay for it.
But
That's-
our credit's really good.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay, I'll discuss that with Michelle.
we got pencil whipped one time because the town manager ordered the signs before town meeting, so.
Yes, I do remember that.
So next on
Seriously.
the agenda is the appointments.
Well, before you go to on year-end budget, we've got at least 3 people that have expressed an interest in the budget committee.
Okay,
Matt Bell, I spoke to him personally,
okay,
he's in.
yeah,
My
Dr.
husband,
Cabot.
Rick Cabot,
okay.
and Leslie Moore.
Oh,
Yeah, which he reconsidered. I didn't speak to him, I guess Rick did, but that's good. I'm glad.
at some point we get it wrong.
I mean, in the past, Bridie and Rick Pellerin have been a part of it too.
Yep,
Brady and Rick, yeah.
Yeah.
They were always good.
they know the drill.
Yeah,
well.
they're
Yeah, Rick has always been the chair, he
So
knows
that
how
might
to
be a nice
control
group
it
of
and.
5. I mean, that's probably what we want.
I have talked
Yeah,
to
no, I
Bridie,
wouldn't-
but
you
I
don't
can't
want
imagine
more
they
than
wouldn't.
5.
No.
I mean, they've
And
always
you really
done
don't even need, if we end up with 4, it's fine. It's just advisory, so.
Correct.
It's fine.
Okay. Perfect. Then, utilities district, the appointments for the 2, for Richard Pellerin and Patrick O'Neill.
So we just have to.
We announced it last
Yep.
board, we just needed, since we had the nominations.
And you didn't get anybody else put in for it? Okay.
Michelle called everyone to talk to, and
One of them had a new number and was supposed to be calling in, that's why I'm asking. So, I'm fine, I'm just making sure.
then, 7 Delta, we already, we touched on, with the fire truck, with the, insurance, Matt's still waiting, and then we also gonna be putting in for if we get any recovery money, any deductibles or anything on that, so that's still on track.
What is our deductible? Do you know? You don't know?
They didn't specify when I
Oh.
talked to them. I could call
Oh.
back. She
It's on
called
the
me.
policy.
I don't
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
that
I'd
high.
have to look it up.
I don't think it's a very
I
high
can't imagine
deductible.
it's very high, usually 500,000, something.
Yeah, I didn't think it was very low.
Okay.
I'll
I
look.
know just the light bar on the top is about $2,000, so we're gonna well over the deductible, but I just don't know. Exactly. She
Okay.
called me and asked if
Yeah, it's
I'd
not
got the
really
estimate yet, and the guy told me Tuesday for the estimate, but I haven't heard from him yet. I'm gonna call him again tomorrow,
Okay.
see if I can.
So next is the road commissioner. We had some issues during the storm and we, you know, with erosion and some bad areas, people couldn't pass. Those did get taken care of the same week that the road was, and then, of course, you know, the representatives from state and federal are gonna work with us, you know, recouping some money for upgrading the roads or doing the road work that needs to be done after the storm. The other is, I got a formal complaint via email the other day. The person is actually gonna come in and put it in writing for Mill Street. They took some nice pictures for me. The plows seem to be really pushing back the 2 inches of snow that we got to the lawn. And not only that, they're starting to hit telephone poles.
Oh, that's not good.
So the formal complaint is coming in. This is the second time this person has actually raised concern. This time is actually a formal complaint.
Ouch.
So I'll be documenting this and keeping it, and then I'll have to follow up with the plow contract.
I said, have you spoken to the contractor?
I did not before the formal complaint has come in. So when that formal complaint is in writing, then I will be following up. But I did do a questionnaire via text to say, have we kind of stretched and pushed the stuff back? Have we plowed up any lawns? Have we hit any telephone poles?
Yeah, plowing up the lawns, that's a tough one because, yeah.
Well, so,
But the
I-
telephone pole, that's,
I had a couple yards of asphalt. Remember last year?
yeah.
I plowed a few roads in my life, and I don't know if I've ever gone that far off the pavement with 2 inches of snow.
Yeah, well, that too, that's true, yeah,
So,
yeah.
and they have a right to complain about it.
At the end of the day, it's the town's right away.
So what, and 2 inches, is that the threshold? As far as
Yep.
we plow at 2 inches, everything?
There were a number of towns I was reading that they didn't even plow their gravel roads because it was, so it was, and then the people were complaining because the roads didn't get plowed.
Yeah.
But
You
it was,
can't
Well, it's a
You
catch
can't
22, you're
It's a
never
mess.
gonna plow a road the way somebody thinks that they should do it, even though they've never plowed a road before.
Right, exactly,
That's how that typically
Yeah.
is,
kinda
And
like
it's-
engineering an old theater.
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and also the first plow, as you all know, it's like blood on snow.
Oh,
It
it's
looks like,
awful.
you know,
Yeah,
it looks
you're a
like
potato
massacre.
farmer, you're not moving snow.
No, that's right.
But even a little bit up,
Yep.
peeled up looks
Awful.
terrible.
Horrible.
Exactly.
And it even
That's
feels
why I
bad
don't
when you're
plow
doing
first.
it.
Yeah, I know,
But the
I know, I
telephone
know.
pole nudge.
Yeah, that's not paying attention. So,
So I just need to
Hey.
follow up on it.
Things happen.
yeah.
All right, anything else? Nope. Item 9 is that we're gonna go into executive session under 1 MRSA 405A. It is, what time is it, Michael? 5:39. Thank you, Matt.
Bye, Matt.
All right, it's 6:36. Make a motion, we come out of executive session.
Second.
Anything else? No. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.